And we are back with the final match of day one of the Canadian Regional Championships, round 10 in lovely, gorgeous, definitely not gross and cold, Calgary, Alberta. And you've seen some Simic birthing ritual for the last two rounds. You're going to be seeing it again. And the reason is pretty simple, is that it's been winning a lot. Eduardo is 8-0 up against Aiden Mirabelli playing Boros Energy, who's 7-1. This is a kind of an interesting match for you, I believe, Liam, because this is your former teammate versus your current teammate. Who are you rooting for?
Uh, I'm a perfectly neutral commentator. You're the one that's biased, always cheering for the guy from Ontario. Me, I'm cheering for the love of the game. I hope Magic wins.
That's correct. I'll be cheering for Aiden because he's from Ontario.
Yeah, I will
Um,
also be cheering for Aiden. Yeah, hate to see it, but
but go ahead. Sorry.
but yeah. So last round we talked about. No, I'll talk about that later. Yeah, let's talk about the people. Yeah, so Aiden, played the last modern Pro Tour Edge of Eternities. Eduardo playing the next Pro Tour. So this is a high caliber match here. Both of them on good teams. So as you mentioned, so yeah, this is the top of Canadian Magic, and we're seeing it play out in round 9 of this tournament. Right now we're penned on our backup feature. We'll see that later. But in terms of the matchup, yeah, Simic Ritual again, been winning, been super impressive, playing against Boros Energy, which if you recall, last round I described Boros Energy as maybe the deck that can take down Simic Ritual. That's one of its bad matchups. Not the worst matchup, maybe the worst matchup is Prowess. But one of the decks that it is poor against is Boros Energy. However, Aiden, 7-1 right now. I looked at his tournament path. His one loss was against Simic Ritual. So what do I know? We are in store for a real well fought and competitive match because, yeah, this matchup I guess can go either way.
Aiden's 1-1 in the matchup. Eduardo has not played against Boros Energy yet this tournament, so it's unclear how this matchup's supposed to shake out in terms of the list. Apart from, it doesn't look like there's a ton of sideboard cards in Eduardo's deck for the matchup beyond those gemstone caverns on the draw. It looks like the game one plan is what's going to be going for, and yeah, it looks like here that Eduardo has gotten the play and is out to basically this is the dream start, right? This is,
Yeah, if this is the
kill the
game one plan,
guide.
you certainly want to repeat this in the post-board games too. Kill your turn 1 answer, go first, play a creature on turn 2, and if you notice in Eduardo's hand, there is a Harbinger of the Tides there, and that card is really effective against Boros Energy. If Aiden does not fetch a mountain or play a mountain on this turn, which he does, then I would say the game would be almost over. But he's covered himself against that with this mountain that was just played.
And this mountain is a contentious mountain. I know not even all the Boros Energy lists are even playing the basic mountain right now, saying that it's kind of unnecessary in your Blood Moon deck. But here, the naturally drawing it has been big for Aiden, has given him at least some ability to fight back. And given if Eduardo plays a Harbinger, he has a bunch of potential answers, and that's why Eduardo goes for this Shardless Agent instead of it, because it's just not what you're looking for here.
And yeah, you can see from Aiden's reaction that this birthing ritual hit here is massive. Will we finally see? Yes, we see the nuts here of Hornoculus put into play. Turn 1, removal. Turn 2, creature. Turn 3, Shardless plus of Hornoculus. And no mountain will save you from this.
Yeah, you're just looking at it. If the Civic Birthing Ritual does this every time, you'd be a fool to play anything else. But this game, and you're on the draw. It's possible. It could take some probably something involving a Johnny is how you get out of this. if
Yeah.
you're Aiden, but
Maybe
the
this
Oculus
turn.
sticking around for 2 turns, maybe you can have a static prison or something, some answer.
Well, the other thing is that you see this Guide of Souls was answered. If it was not answered, if we had Guide and Pride, that can outscale Oculus. So Boros Energy is capable of beating an Oculus without removing it, just by going over the top, going wider, gaining a bunch of life, and making it irrelevant. However, with that Guide of Souls removed, and wow, and a free interaction spell on the Seasoned Pyromancer, there's just no chance.
Yeah, this feels like almost a formality.
Yeah.
Eduardo is very ready to move on. Looks like another dismember was drawn just in case Aiden could muster up some level of board. It's just all going away, and that's another birthing ritual hit coming in.
Yeah, I ready to say it has definitely been the deck of the day. We'll see how the rest of this game plays out, and then games 2 and 3. But I mean, there's going to be a birthing ritual trigger end of turn. It's there's this one is lost.
Right? They call the deck Simic Birthing Ritual for a reason, and Birthing Ritual is great when it costs 2 mana, but it is even better when it costs 0 mana. And yeah, this is a very tough position for Aiden to be in. Even in, right, we're talking about it. These are the matchups that you're probably not excited to see when you're getting paired into them with Birthing Ritual. You're looking for kind of more of those combo decks that are really, really soft to subtlety. But like you see with a lot of these kind of quote unquote mid range or control decks in the format, you just need to have the ability to do. You need a broken thing, even right. We talked about the control deck that plays Narset Days Undoing and Scepter Chant because just doing something fair is not enough, and this is an example of this quote unquote mid range deck doing something incredibly unfair.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this start could be anything really. With the subtlety there, the only way to beat this kind of start would be a certain spell combo that's immune to subtlety and just pray that you particularly missed on this form of interaction. But the Boros Energy, maybe the premier fair deck of the format, other than Jeskai Blink, is has really no moves against this. Flage into the graveyard is good, but too late.
And Aiden had excellent start with a bunch of 1 drops, 1 drop into 1 drop, 1 drop into 3 drop is like that's about as you can't ask for much more. And just to add insult to injury, Eduardo shows another Oculus off the manifest, which seems to be a pattern, and that is quick game 1.
Yeah, as you mentioned, probably the Neoform coming in, but beyond that, maybe the Endurance to if Flage is the best card out of energy in this matchup. But beyond that, not too many moves for the Simic Ritual deck. So Eduardo's going to be mostly running things back the same.
Those caverns are the only thing that stick out to me as something.
Oh yeah, that for sure that's actually I guess the best. When you need to speed up, you just board in the Gemstone Caverns and go a turn faster. But I have to say, from Aiden's side, the Boros Energy deck is not going to sideboard all too much either. So we're going to see mostly the game ones just ran back. You see the Boros Energy sideboard, because it's such a fair main deck where you just play creature removal. Your sideboard is so taxed with hate cards for unfair matchups. So you see, the Blood Moons, the Wear Tear, Surgical, Orm's Chant, and then the removal that like you can see the 5 removal spots for Wrath of Sky's Celestial Purge. Those ones are not the ones that are going to be at their best against Simic Ritual. So yeah, not many moves to improve in the sideboard either. So we're going to just be jamming the same type of things in game 2 and 3.
Yeah, maybe a couple of wear tears from Aiden's side as an out. Maybe the Blood Moons are where you want to be on the play in this match. It's unclear to me. The deck is so
It
basic oriented that Blood
Yeah,
Moon
it,
maybe
it
just
it
not where
could
you
be
want to
wear and
be.
tear. I think it's definitely not Blood Moon, but it could be wear and tear.
Maybe it's a grindy Legend of Roku matchup. Who knows? This card is, I was looking at the data at the European RC, and that was the most played card from the new set at the regional championship. So this is a powerful card that is largely overtaken Shonen Scald's role as this kind of long game plan in your Boros Energy sideboard. And maybe this is, those games were not long, but maybe the mean game in this matchup is a lot, longer of a slog fest, and that could be the plan.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we're going to jump into our backup feature match where we see Mono Green Eldrazi from Clement Harvey against Nicholas Cosgrove playing Mono Blue Belcher. There's a lot of cards on the table right now. That was an
Yeah,
Emrakul.
that looked like
Oh my.
We just narrowly missed the Emrakul being resolved again on coverage. I'm not sure. I'm crushed on that opportunity, but it is.
I missed it. I was reading the names and the deck names, and I missed the Emrakul going on. I hope you guys caught it.
We only caught. I caught the last end of the Emrakul, and a deck that is capable of dealing 40 damage to any target is probably uniquely quite vulnerable to the Emrakul deck. And I hope that the play ended with a Belcher target myself, but it does seem unlikely.
Yeah, and this mono green Eldrazi deck is maybe better than any other Eldrazi build at going fast to Emrakul. It's got the Utopia Sprawl, Malevolent Rumble, plus the Mana Rocks, plus the Kozilek's Command, which are, we saw also in the Brood Scale deck, but also just Ice Till Explorer, play multiple lands per turn. Maybe Ice Till is how we one of the most effective things against the Belcher matchup, because Belcher plays no basic lands in the deck. So maybe that's how enough time was stalled to reach the Emrakul before the Belcher player, before Nicholas was able to deal 40 damage first.
That does look like a tough matchup, especially in losing game one from the Belcher side. I'm looking at that mono green Eldrazi list, has 4 Consign and 2 Condescend in the sideboard. So that's a lot of answers to just try to slam some big spells. Nature's Claim got it all, and then that's before considering the Ghost Quarter Ice Till package. So that matchup looks very tough for Nicholas, and maybe they get some games back in the post board. Nick is an excellent Belcher player, been effectively one-tricking that deck for over a year in Modern, and looks like Eduardo's taking a mulligan here.
Yeah. Maybe looking for the Gemstone Caverns if he thinks that's or he just had an unplayable hand, but maybe he has the angle of, okay, I need just Gemstone to win on the draw or Dismember, and wants to look really aggressively for one of those.
Yeah, Gemstone definitely one of those interesting cards where it's so amazing when you see on your 7 on the draw, but once you go to 6, the value that Gemstone Caverns goes down quite drastically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see, Aiden already off to a better start, is going to be on the play here, and one of those incredible snowballing threats, which is how Energy gets their bread and butter.
Ocelot Pride hitting the board. Would you rather have turn 1 Pride or turn 1 Guide?
It's got to be the Pride, right? I think.
Yeah, I agree.
In general.
Well, I mean, if you have both, you lead Guide, right? But
yeah,
Pride is definitely better.
Assuming you could have one, like the one you'd rather to draw. But yeah, here it's just, it's one of those cards we talk about, like how could they go over this Abhorrent Oculus? Onslaught Pride is one of the main ways that you can do that, where you can just easily make a board that a 5/5 flyer with a couple of 2/2s coming out is just not going to hack it. And you can see Aiden aware of the threat of the Harbinger, proactively fetching basics. You'll see that, very commonly, but it's not the follow-up you're looking for. That is not the most appealing turn 2 play from the Boros Energy side.
Oh, I would say it is the most appealing.
You think?
Bombardment is excellent. You like, it's so hard for a Simic Ritual deck to establish any sort of, like, you go to their end step, they have a 1/1 or a 2/2, and you just shoot it down, and then their Birthing Ritual can't do anything.
So your read on this play is that Aiden's likely to have other good proactive plays, but it's just choosing to get this one down first before
Well,
there's a chance for it to get flare denied, or you think this is a card that you would generally sandbag until after your 2-drop?
well, in a removal matchup, you Bourse Energy generally play out the bombardment before your other creatures. Now, this is not really a removal matchup, but it is a Flare of Denial matchup where if you think, because the thing about Flare of Denial is that in this deck, it only works on turn 2. So if you're going first, you know that this first spell is going to resolve. Well, I mean, it could get Force of Negation, but it's possible that Aiden still has an Ajani, but chose to prioritize getting the bombardment down because it's actually more important to his game. Now, the other possibility is that, he's going to go Pride into a bombardment into Seasoned Pyromancer, which is basically one of the best things this deck could do, especially in this matchup. And then, bombardment would be your turn 2 play in that scenario. So it's either one of those things. I don't think this is not a sign of weakness.
Okay, very
Yeah.
interesting. That is good to know. There's a reason that I am sitting at home watching, and we get to watch them in the feature match. This Boros deck is out of my complexity range.
Yeah, you can only handle simple decks like Goryo's Vengeance.
It's more my speed.
How would you think the Goryo's versus Simic Birthing Ritual matchup would be?
I would have to guess that the Simic Birthing Ritual deck is probably very good against Goryo's. It just interacts with all the right spots. But we have really not seen a lot of Goryo's. Not a ton of, and this is showing that Eduardo, Aiden, and you are all on the same page of the importance of this Goblin Bombardment. That is a aggressive Boseiju on turn 2.
Well, that's funny because I was about to say that this proved you right in that it was a weak turn because turn 2 bombardment, turn 3 Tapland go is definitely not the kind of start you want. You really wanted to play a creature to follow up. This mana is basically going to go to waste because it's the end step.
Yeah, definitely not ideal in terms of that, but it definitely shows just the threat that just a bombardment plus an Ocelot Pride provides is
Yeah,
something that
absolutely.
Eduardo has already, you've seen that your opponent probably doesn't have great proactive threats, and you're still giving them another Surveil and, another land drop, and that's just totally fine just to get rid of this incredibly powerful enchantment.
Yeah, if Eduardo had began deploying creatures first, then the Ocelot Pride would just ping it off and then make the token back, and Eduardo would just be falling further and further behind. Goes for Coiling Oracle here. He does have the Birthing Ritual in hand, and he's doing it in this order to set it up. But if it were the other way around, he would be forced to go Ritual first, then on turn 4, maybe Boseiju plus play a creature in order to get it back. And wow, this Coiling Oracle is going to eat a Galvanic Discharge, so probably no more Bombardment in hand for Aiden. Maybe he's seen a Seasoned Pyromancer on top and just knows that he wants to turn over his hand, and so he just wants to be efficient.
Be a sign of just a lot more removal to come, maybe more copies, but
Oh, something very important to note is that this discharge took out a 1-drop, which means Aiden's going to have 2 energy left. That means if an important Oculus comes down, a Galvanic Discharge will be able to kill it.
And that's a huge setup because when you look at how most of the wins involve in this matchup, they're off the back of the Oculus. That's the play, and you called it 100%. That is a Seasoned Pyromancer in hand for Aiden Mirabelli, and that is exactly what he's looking for here.
Yeah, subtlety in Eduardo's hand definitely going to come down because otherwise, draw 2 more cards, gain the city's blessing. Ocelot Pride create 4 total tokens, 3 additional tokens, versus if this were to not resolve. It's huge difference. So this subtlety, yeah, Eduardo immediately putting down the subtlety, that is beyond question. Now he thinks about which blue card to pitch.
And now looking at this possibility of if Eduardo can get a fetch land, that's the 6th card for the Oculus, and the play that you just talked about could really just swing the game back in Aiden's favor and cause him to just close this game out.
Yeah, I have to wonder. I know Eduardo has the Birthing Ritual. If he goes for a creature plus Birthing Ritual, if Aiden will just let the ritual resolve and then just discharge Oculus after, or if he'll just, use the discharge first. Assuming he has a second one, we still don't know. He keeps hand face down on the table. So
The first galvanic discharge, I guess with the seasoned Power Mancer on top, doesn't guarantee that there's more removal in hand, but it does feel like one of those lines you take when
yeah,
you're
absolutely.
showing more. Aiden also just had, that turn 3 of no proactive play, and you gotta think the hands, unless the hands all lands, which is possible, there's got to be some instant speed interaction there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's likely. Also, he did a bit of a pause after putting the seasoned Pyromancer on top, and that could indicate that he has another 1-drop plus a discharge in hand and was maybe gonna tap out, play the other 1-drop, and he's chosen to hold it up. Or it could just, I don't know, mean that he was counting his permanence for the city's blessing and realizing he doesn't have it. I'm not sure.
Or maybe just a bit of Hollywooding. Nothing wrong with that. And there's
Would love to see that.
this is what you got to do. This is Eduardo needs to get the Oculus in play, and that's willing to pitch two things. But it looks like
Wow.
this discharge is going to be a complete blowout and probably end the game on the spot, if I'd have to think. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, you called it. And Aiden takes game 2 in a convincing fashion, although I would say an interesting game also.
Yeah, it was, of just that Ocelot Pride, the amount of pressure, and you can kind of see how important Gemstone Caverns is in this matchup. The amount of pressure that a turn 1 Ocelot Pride, if it's not met by exactly Dismember or Gemstone Caverns, it just runs away with the game, and it puts on so much pressure on the way. Like, that bombardment just became a huge threat, and now we go back to Nicholas Cosgrove versus Clement, as Nicholas is going to need to fight through double Vexing Bauble, which is not the easiest thing. But that's a good way to start it off. That's a card that beats a lot of interaction.
What card is that?
That's Tameshi.
Oh, that's Tameshi. Oh, wow. Just very nice. Let the Lotus Bloom get countered by the Vexing Bauble. Okay, it's safe in my graveyard where it can be returned by Tameshi. The alt art got me on that one, yeah. Nick got a very nice looking deck. You know, as you mentioned, he's played Belger for a long time, so he's had the time to make his deck look very beautiful, and he does have, nice versions of the cards, but he does have to pass the turn here and face a Kozilek's Command.
This is an interesting spot. And you can also see a kind of a big one is that basic island plus the Ghost Quarter. And there, the Flusterstorm. And this is, Nick is clearly prepared for what these post-board matchups against these decks look like, and has set himself up in a very good spot to be able to grind this one out. And now untapping with Tameshi, you almost think that's a very tough position to lose from. It is so much mana, so many cards.
Well, it comes at quite a cost, though. Like, if you return all your lands and then you don't win that turn, it takes a while to play it all back out.
Yeah. And we'll see. That's I think why Nick was very patient, not picking up that second land, only picking up one per turn.
Yeah, absolutely. You keep the cards flowing. You draw, because Tameshi does draw you when you on your first Lotus Bloom, you draw an additional card, and so he'll probably stay on 2 lands forever, just to keep drawing 2 cards a turn every single turn, because it's not worth it to skip just to do that. And there, he just finds it immediately and declares victory.
There we go. Nick was able to. Those were 2 Vexing Baubles in play, which is you think of as kind of the perfect hate card for this matchup. And they sat there and they did basically nothing to stop the Tameshi combo, and it kind of shows the Belcher deck. It has fallen out of favor a fair bit, but there's a reason why it put multiple copies in the top 8 of the Pro Tour and won the event. It's full of incredibly powerful cards and is a very resilient combo deck, despite not being the fastest.
Yeah, absolutely. We go back to our main feature for game 3. Aiden on a mulligan to 6, it looks like. Eduardo keeping 7 on the play. And let's see if we can get a peek at his hand, if he can recreate that game 1 magic.
You see a Birthing Ritual, which is the start of a lot of magic, but seeing Birthing Ritual and a Flare of Denial.
A land. Those are good ones. I gotta say, that is a good few cards to have in the opening hand.
That's good. Anything that, and once your opponent's mulligan, do you think just how much more effective the strategy of trading cards off is? So you're always looking at that.
Yeah, we saw in game one how the disruption is quite potent against the Boros Energy deck. The Guide of Souls removed, and then the Ragavan and the Ocelot Pride both stonewalled by the creatures on board, where that would not have been the case had the Guide stuck around.
And I think on the play, a card like Ragavan is quite powerful from the Boros Energy side, as it can connect pretty early, and then you can snowball that. But on the draw, it does almost feel like Ocelot Pride is just in a league of its own, as being the only one drop that you have that can really attack profitably and make some things happen against the two drops of the Civic Birthing Ritual deck. So might be part of the motivation behind Aiden, mulliging a little bit more aggressively here, is that card just seems so incredibly important in this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ragavan can it's such a poor interaction against the Coiling Oracle that you almost like against those decks that are full of 1/1s. Historically, many times people boarded Ragavan out. I don't think that will happen here because even trading with them is not that bad because the ritual deck actually does need them to be in play. It uses their bodies very well, and so you do if your Ragavan trades off for the 2-drop, it's you're down a card, but okay, whatever, you play on. But yeah, it's really mitigating the strength of Ragavan that we've seen in the other matches.
Yeah, and Aiden is in the tank on turn one. This is, you gotta think, gotta have multiple different one drops and sweating which one to play. Not
Are
obvious in a bunch of these hands.
Oh, we're on turn one. I thought he was still thinking about the mulligan decision, but no. Eduardo left up with a tapped Soporific Springs. Aiden drawing a card that perhaps threw his whole plan into disarray and having to figure things out again right now. But it's always a good sign when you are thinking on turn one. If you have the multiple one drops, that is what he's looking for.
You gotta think there's two reasons the Aiden's most likely to tank on turn one. One is multiple one drops, awesome. One is a hand that involves like Elegant Parlor plus Arid Mesa as your two lands, and you're deciding how to best sequence, and that is a less appealing proposition. So hopefully for Aiden's case, it's the former, not the latter.
Oh, absolutely. That elegant parlor, that awkwardness, big part of the motivation of why people have tried to change up the mana base a little bit. So he has 23 with 2 elegant parlors, which is the stock number. Yeah, exactly, stock mana base, which makes sense. But yeah, those parlors. I've played a lot of Boros Energy, and I mean, yeah, there's nothing you can say about it.
When you hit a Flage, it feels a little bit nicer, but
That's true.
here we're seeing Aiden maybe kind of hoping maybe that sideboard wear and tears come in and is able to answer this birthing ritual, because on the draw it can just snowball so incredibly quickly, and without incredibly powerful play, Aiden doesn't have something like second Guide of Souls plus other one drop, because otherwise would have happened pre-combat, means the options are a bit more limited, and maybe you can just try to keep creatures off the board and that's enough. That's a pretty good one.
Pride is good. Yeah, he needs to
Notably,
smelt
no
me.
land before. This could be kind of part of the humming and hawing. Maybe it's a one land from Aiden, considering whether he wants to go for the turn one Elegant Parlor. But it's all unclear right now.
Top. Any follow up is a mountain. Okay, I see. I see what the idea is here. Um, yeah, interesting. The birthing ritual being led over the creature meant that Eduardo can't have flare. It actually might not have a creature. Yeah, it's Hedge Maze
Look like
tapped.
Eduardo's. Yeah, it seems like it's a Flare of Denial, another Forest, and I'm not sure that then I can't get the last card, but
Do you see what card Eduardo pitched to the subtlety?
yeah, it's a
It's
Flare of Denial.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so maybe perhaps some number of 2-drops got boarded out, and now he's been unable to draw one, or maybe
Yeah,
just couldn't
it
draw
looks
one,
like it might
has
just
them
be
all and couldn't
Counterspell
draw it.
land in
Oh, this
hand.
counterspell with the Hedge Maze is extremely awkward. If this Ocelot Pride resolves, it could become too late for Eduardo really fast.
And Aiden is in the tank.
Yeah, probably not very many more lands left for him. You're with the mountain being played on turn 2, you wouldn't play that one over very many of the others. Perhaps you'd play over Elegant Parlor if you were thinking specifically to hold up Discharge, and now he has a Parlor here, or it's just no land 3 and he has to go Pride again.
That's like maybe an Arena of Glory is what it looks like is in hand, which is not exactly the optimal situation, but it looks like that's going to come down. And Eduardo is without a creature and is kind of hurting. And again, we've seen what Ocelot Pride can do. It can take over the game incredibly quickly. These decks in Modern just don't give your opponent much time.
But he has Flare. He has Flare and what is it? Does he have an interaction?
I see Flare Forest +1. Maybe that one is Dismember. It's kind of unclear what that.
I would expect the
card is.
Dismember to be cast on the Ocelot Pride if that were to be the case. Like resolves, you can gain 1, and then I'll dismember the Pride and leave the guy alone.
That's my best guess in what it is, but it's not 100%. Yeah, it's like an Arena of Glory. Not the most pretty mana situation for Aiden here. But no, it's definitely not a Dismember.
Wow. It's an end of turn Ice Fang Codal. So trying to make his mana situation awkward. Very heads up from Eduardo because he leads the mountain. And let's say Aiden had a 3-drop that he wanted to play, or another 2. Then he would top down. The Ice Fang would come in end of turn, and then Eduardo would get to resolve a Birthing Ritual trigger with a creature in play.
Yeah, a really nice play from Eduardo, realizing that Aiden probably has this Galvanic Discharge and decides he doesn't want to try to go for that thing. But that's no discharge from Aiden. That's not looking good. And that last one,
that last card, the Abhorrent Oculus.
Oh wow. My goodness! And
maybe it's discharging now.
You got to think you discharge. Oh.
Yeah.
That is definitely a tough spot for Aiden. I believe Eduardo's last 2 cards are Misty Rainforest Dismember, and that Dismember is going to hope. We talked a lot about that. Ocelot Pride can fight through these really powerful Oculus boards, but that is no longer an option. And this game is looking rapidly coming out of grip for Aiden.
Yeah, so I totally understand the reason he didn't. He could have discharged that Ice Fang while Eduardo was tapped out, but the reason not to do that is if Eduardo just plays a follow-up creature and then turns it into Oculus, now you have no move, so it's fine to let him, let him do that thing, and if he hits, then you discharge. If he doesn't hit, you didn't spew your discharge on this 1/1 when you could easily play another creature, but this Flare of Denial completely punished that.
Yeah, now it feels like we need another discharge from Aiden or something to fight through this Oculus, because it will close the game quickly, especially with a Ritual in play.
It's going to be difficult with this mana situation. Yeah, because you have to go over both the Oculus or the Ritual, or else it'll just come back. 2 lands being tapped.
Looks like something's got to be exerted. Oh, wow.
Voice of Victory. Wow.
That's a play that forces a bit of action from Eduardo.
No, it's not. It can't be exerted. It can't be exerted.
Oh, yeah, because the last mountain's not tapped?
The mountain would need to be tapped for it to be exerted.
It's weird.
But it all resolved. And if you said you dismember, resolving is strange. But
a discharge could, if that would be the perfect one.
That would be incredible if there was another discharge up his sleeve. So now the coast is clear. There's a lot of thinking on this combat. Yeah, there we go. Does not have another discharge, as that would make it
just moves to end step.
Easier turn.
And
subtlety, the draw there.
Now it just feels like, especially if there's something to be flipped up here from Eduardo, this game could get really messy really quickly.
the fact that he fetched right away looking for something is like, okay, are you got to be looking to spend that mana? Maybe just thinning out prior to the birthing ritual trigger.
Very possible that Eduardo saw some very good, like saw Oculus plus some other cards that he liked on that last birthing ritual, and also just wants to shuffle his library.
Yeah, there was an endurance in there that I remember seeing, and I don't know, endurance just seems okay here, but I guess it's good enough of it. Of the manifests are zeros, right? So they can't
Yeah,
be
you can't
potted
be
into anything.
sacrificed, so there
So
might
this
not be
birthing
any
ritual is not going
sacrifices.
to do very much. Yeah, it's going to do nothing, in fact. But the voice of victory is taken out, and subtlety being represented is gonna mean a Johnny one way to claw back in the game is not going to work, or it's going to be quite delayed.
Another
So
spot for a galvanic discharge that could be really huge to get in back in the game before these manifests can just take over the game. You know, you eventually just get a manifest that flips over another Oculus, and that could almost wrap it up. So the clock is just dwindling, and Aiden only has so much white mana, which is causing some problems. That is a card that is going to eat a subtlety immediately.
that was the fastest subtlety I've seen all
When
day.
Eduardo's got a nice play, that card hits the table incredibly quickly, and can you blame him? He's on the verge of being the only undefeated player. Well, he already is the only undefeated player, but could be
Of ending the day
nine and
as a
zero ending the
9-0.
day.
Wow. Yeah, that I mean it's looking likely unless Aiden can pull off you know, I don't know. I mean Goblin Bombardment could begin to do something, but he didn't have it before unless he just drew
It's
it.
so tough looking at this hand of with all this red mana. It's just so unappealing.
I definitely would not prefer to be in his spot right now, but
This
yeah,
also
Pride.
Fred's amazing, but you have to bottom it because your spot is so poor. Like maybe you're just looking at Season Pyromancers, you're only out.
Yeah, counting up 7 permanents, no way to gain life. Because assuming we don't have another follow-up creature off of red.
Yeah, you need like last two cards to be land Pyromancer, but that seems like a sandbag that's not really in Aiden's range. Jumping.
Yeah. All
What?
right, going for something here. This is going to eat a block. There's
What does this represent? Like, what is the? Why is Eduardo not just immediately moving his abhorrent
um
Oculus in front of this cat?
because if you have discharge, is it what's no? Yeah, it's not really a credible bluff. I have to see exactly how much energy he has, but the double block means that if he does have discharge, you know, it's it's not getting you into a better spot. But if he's saying I need to find a way to gain life this turn, the only way to do that is to jump my guy and attack like that. At least he's trading off with the subtlety.
Yeah, it looks like there's got to be a discharge.
Yeah, it has to be discharged.
Maybe a land flage. Last two cards.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah, there we
that
go.
could be what he needs. Flage coming down now, Flage again the next turn with under Arena of Glory, and maybe we counted it out too soon. I mean, that is
That's a very good one. That's
yeah.
exactly enough cards. Even the Ocelot Pride's off. Kudos to Aiden, seeing the kind of the only out, realizing even though Ocelot Pride is such a fantastic card in this position, it's just not enough. And now Eduardo is, if assuming those manifests are both bad, I believe they're both spells in the graveyard, so there's no guarantee they're creatures,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
and that
another
is
ritual. Okay.
another ritual, but
Yeah.
you can only turn the subtlety unless there's
Well, you can flip up a 2,
yeah, it
and
looks like
then
there's got to be a
that.
two here. You
But
kind of
Aiden
need
had the opportunity last turn to just flage the subtlety and then leave the pride in play, but yeah, deciding to make that trade-off, spend a bunch of energy to do so, but this way, the subtlety will like flage will come down and terrorize the next board. Even if an Oculus is put into play, flage off of its ETB and attack trigger can
yeah.
kill it.
This is 14 cards and an endurance to really put the screws in Aiden, though. That would just be a backbreaker.
Endurance? Oh yeah, endurance is another possible hit. And this manifest not being turned up means that it is likely to just be a 2/2. And then Eduardo will turn up some manifest that probably could be turned into another creature.
I just feel like the one that is not attacking is a 2-drop creature.
Yeah, that seems the most likely
Eduardo
scenario.
could be just putting on some. They could both be not creatures, but it does. It has the feeling that one is. I'm not really sure the appeal of the block from Aiden
Yeah,
here.
yeah, you would rather keep tokens on the board as energy deck, and it's not a significant amount of life total. So
Unless you think
it,
Eduardo made some very made a poor attack and attacked with the creature that was supposed to flip up, but it doesn't feel like that's very likely with how Eduardo's been very precise here.
yeah, I wouldn't be counting on that for sure. But it looks, yeah, I don't know. We're 50-50 on whether we're gonna do it, and we do.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
And let's see.
It was an Ice Fang, and we have a second Ice Fang.
Oh, there's just a second one, so it doesn't matter.
And now we
And
see
now
we're gonna
we see
need
it's got to be
some
endurance.
missing. 6, 7, and
See, just
there's
says
an Ice
Codal.
Fang. Yeah, it's an Ice
That's
Fang
good,
total.
but not what you want. And now Eduardo, if this is not a
Oh, it's a Coiling Oracle, I
endurance,
see.
okay. Do you see
And
what
he
the
flips the
top card
card
was?
very fast. It was blue. I think it was like Subtlety, but
I
let's feel
don't see an
confident.
endurance here. That's an Oculus, which is good, but
It's
it's
food.
not
No,
amazing.
wait, that is a Coiling Oracle, not an Ice Fang, right? Either way, it
But
does not have Death Touch, so
yeah, not 3 permanents. And this is a game.
Aiden could be clawing his way back into this one.
This Flage card, Flage Arena, is just so incredibly powerful. I believe this is only to 1 energy, so it can't get jumped.
Wow, that jumped Flage would be impossible to deal with.
But it could easily get jumped soon. And now you're looking at probably just targeting this Oculus twice upstairs.
Wow, upstairs.
And that's saying that's interesting because with a bunch of chump blockers, I don't know if I see the path forward super well.
Uh, he'll figure it out. He'll do the math, get to the spot. I could have seen potentially a merit in going for Subtlety plus the Coiling Oracle and say you're going to have less creatures to pot off your birthing rituals next turn and leave the Oculus alone. The problem with that is then the Oculus and the 2/2 could double block the Flage and trade Oculus for Flage, and then Aiden would be really far behind, leaving a 2/2 back against 2 birthing rituals. So I think the most likely thing is that the Oculus needs to get pinged twice.
Looking like there's a chance that Eduardo may have forgot to sacrifice a creature to the. Yeah, there we go. Eduardo forgot to sacrifice the creature to the birthing ritual. That was looking like it looked like an extra creature on board, but
Oh, the one that the Oculus came into
yeah,
play
the Oculus came off of the.
off of that Codal, yeah, and it just gets it into play. Awkward moment here. We'll see what the judges come to as a
I
resolution.
believe so. I could be off. I thought he sacrificed a Codal.
There is a Ice Fang being put into
Okay, there we go. Now
graveyard right
the
now.
yeah. And now I wonder if this maybe changes Aiden's approach here.
Yeah, that's. It looks like they're just gonna, try and play on from this spot.
Yeah, these are high pressure matches. Mistakes happen. Looks like now Aiden has decided to go after the Oculus twice. Oh,
And
there
does have
was
enough
enough
energy to
energy.
jump
Okay, that is
the Flage.
huge.
That is a really, really big difference in the spot. As Flage won't get chump block, he'll take 8. Wow.
And now you're looking at like there are not a lot of ways to take an 8/8 Flage off the board.
Yeah. It's sink into stupor for this Simic Ritual deck. And that's it.
And that is
It's gonna
not a
be
card you can find off Birthing Ritual. Like a lot of the Birthing Ritual hits seem very like they buy time. You can, but there aren't a lot of creatures to turn into other creatures. There isn't. You know, we watched that game with that 5-color Birthing Ritual deck earlier, and that's a deck that can, you know, off of one Birthing Ritual, hit a creature that does like a huge thing, and then
Solitude, right? Yeah.
yeah, get it, and then turn that into something else and do another huge ETB. This deck is nickel and diming. It's a much, you know, smaller scale thing, and you know the deck is plans are to keep the Flage from hitting the battlefield, and things get really dicey when a Flage is on the battlefield, especially when the creatures you in your list of things that can block the Flage go down drastically when it has flying.
Misty, this is a Coiling Oracle turned up as we prepare to move to end step to this, and we're going to need to get some really good hits. Fetching out the forest, trying to shuffle some things back in, it seems, off this Birthing Ritual. But even some of the better hits, Flage, when it attacks, it deals 3 damage. That's going to take out, at the very least, the Subtlety. It's an 8/8. So even it might take double Oculus just for Eduardo to stay in this game, and then even though then both of them would trade off with the Flage, which is not the ideal scenario. He gets a Subtlety here. That is
And
it,
that's
which is
horrible because you can't even
nothing.
turn the. And Aiden is kind of, you know, rubbing his hands together, realizing that this might be. And is that an
An
endurance?
endurance, and I believe he has another endurance in hand. There some hand gestures being made. Fibblethip? Okay, that is a draw 2. That is certainly, and we sacrifice the creature this time.
Okay.
Draw, forest or Misty Rainforest, and one
Perhaps
unknown
Quantum
was.
Riddler, maybe it looked like.
It looked like a Quantum Riddler, but let's check if Quantum
It's
Riddler
in
is
the
in.
sideboard. It's in the sideboard.
Yeah, I believe it was a Quantum Riddler. I thought for a moment it was Ice Fang Codal, which would be devastating, as Eduardo does have 3
It might be
snow
the. Oh,
lands.
it is the Codal. Oh my
Oh my
goodness.
god!
And
Another Flage, and that's gonna
that's a
force a
6.
Subtlety.
Is that there's subtlety in
We
hand?
just saw Eduardo's life total get adjusted from 14 down to 6 off the attack from Flage on the last turn.
Does Oro have anything, or is that just 6 damage on
Oh, just 6.
targets?
Maybe I imagined a Subtlety in his hand, but this.
Looks like you target upstairs and go to combat
I mean, he must respond with the Ice Fang, try and draw a
into
flare, but
subtlety. Yeah,
even if
or
he hit
counterspell.
a counter spell, but even if he hits, that means the creature is dying in combat, and he draws another one, and he draws
Wow. Nothing.
nothing.
Holy cow. Eduardo falls to 3. And
Lage
wow.
finishes it off. Aiden Mirabelli takes the match with Boros Energy, improving to 8-1. Finally, no more undefeated players. Eduardo has taken his first loss of the tournament in round 9.
That was an unbelievable way to finish it off. Oh my, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Aiden scrapped through in a spot that felt really hopeless,
Well,
candidly. But
yeah. Missed land on
the
turn
flages
4
were
with
just brutal.
Mountain Arena of Glory, and somehow grinded through with the Ocelot Pride, made the tokens, traded off, got enough stuff in the graveyard for Flage, and then miraculously had enough energy to give it flying and get in that huge hit for 8, which allowed him to finish the game in the next turn with a second copy of Flage.